as promised, so earlier in the week, we revisited Yeezus, its 5-year anniversary. So for this installation of this week, 5 years ago, J. Cole's Born Sinner album, out June 18th, 2013, features from Miguel, Kendrick Lamar, TLC, etc. Big singles Power Trip and Crooked Smile, selling almost 300K first week. How did this album age to you guys? 5 years later, looking back.
For me, it
I'll
aged...
put the track list if you need.
Yeah, you have the track list? For me, it aged well. Again, if we're thinking about Cole's either most memorable or, I want to say publicly liked, because sometimes his fans, like, the devoted Cole stans.
You can't point. They can't see when you point at me and I'm off screen.
Right.
The things they like is a little bit different than sometimes what the casual fans might consume. But I think this album was a good mix of like the songs that, like, we call them single-ready songs. Like, those songs were dope, and it also had some substance to it. It's, like, for his last album, the album before this one, what's it called? For Your Eyes Only?
Oh, that one, yeah. Concept album.
That shit was just like, people didn't fuck with it.
I didn't, yeah, that's not mine.
And that missed some of the elements that I believe he accomplished on Born Sinner, and also I think he perfected on Forest Hills Drive. So when I look at it, and if I had to rank it in his discography,
so Sideline Story 2011, Born Sinner 2013, Forest Hill Drives 2014, For Your Eyes Only 2016, and of course KOD this year.
I'm really gonna put it after Forest Hills Drive.
Yeah, that's where I would put it
second
too.
for me.
Me too.
Okay, so.
Why such a...
No, because I'm gonna give.
Are you going left field?
No.
Okay, so we're making a left.
No. So with me, I can honestly say, like, I like to hear Cole rapping, but I didn't jump on the Cole bandwagon as far as like really supporting his music until Forest Hills Drive.
What?
No.
Where were you at that whole time?
All right. What was the Friday Night Lights?
Excellent. The
I love
warm-up,
that.
excellent.
The warm-up.
The two best J. Cole.
Right, this is what I'm saying. So the warm-up, Friday Night Lights. Sideline Story, I did not like that album.
Okay.
I don't even like.
That doesn't hit for me. But it's not that it's not good, it's just, I was like.
All right, so this is what I'm saying.
He was trying to find himself too much.
Born Sinner, even still, Born Sinner.
But it was more cocohesive than Sideline Story,
It was
right?
way,
You felt the
way,
progress.
way more cohesive. I felt progress, but I still was like,
Okay.
You know? Forest Hills Drive. And I felt like, remember when we was talking about classic records versus classic moments? I felt like Crooked Smile was a classic moment, the video. Because he was talking about, you know, people embracing their imperfections. But the video was based on the little girl who got killed in Detroit. And we seen more of that narrative of Cole changing who he was. I think he was still wearing jewelry around Born Sinner.
What?
Was he?
I don't think
He still
so.
was. He had the low cut when he dropped Born Sinner.
He didn't have the dreads yet. I don't know about the jewelry though. I feel like that was a
But
very
I'm just saying, like,
He ain't look homeless then. That's what he
Oh, I didn't go that far, but okay. But as far, and y'all really not fans of KOD, right? Like
Me?
that.
I like the album.
Okay,
The more I listen, the more I like
terms of
it.
ranking,
but-
If I rank, I could rank all 5 of them right now. I'm going Forest Hills Drive, Born Sinner. Honestly, KOD, Sideline Story, then For Your Eyes Only. And it's crazy because I still don't believe. I know a lot of people knock For Your Eyes Only. I don't think it's a trash album at all. I think it's good, but it's not.
I felt like it could have just been a soundtrack or something. Like it shouldn't have been an album. I felt like if he was gonna do that whole movie thing, it should have just been a soundtrack. It shouldn't have been pushed as an album. So my favorite joint is Forest Hills Drive because I felt like that was like Cole's biggest honest moment, especially with the record Be Free.
Right.
Around the whole Mike Brown shit and all of that, him going to St. Louis, like he ain't film all of that, he just did it out of his heart. I got Forest Hills Drive. I put KOD second. I put Born Sinner third. Sideline Story, and then For Your Eyes Only. But as far as Born Sinner, I feel like if I was rated, because I've been doing like this 5 thing, I would rate Born Sinner like a 3.5.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would rate it as a 3.5 in my book.
I think this was also
I think I reviewed that. I remember because I used to do a lot of reviews on albums back then. I think I gave it like a 4.3.
That's pretty good.
Like I remember the exact rate.
Wow.
I used to be like
4.3 out of 5?
4.3 or 4.25. Yeah, out of 5. And by the way, okay, so do you think he has a classic album?
I think for myself, because I know that like you have
classic,
wait.
tape.
Yes, of course.
Yes, absolutely.
Hell
But Friday Night Lights.
Okay.
That's what that is to me. But
Can we try the
album-wise.
warm up too? Can we do both or not? Too much? I'm a
for me,
Nadeska
Fall back.
but the reason why I say that
Cole,
is
y'all been a
because
Shut up, Ash.
a lot of reasons why. Like Cole's music doesn't speak to me in a lot of ways, only because I never went to college.
Because you didn't have student loans, bro.
Right, I didn't go to college, so it's a lot of shit that I understand it, but it doesn't mean as much to me as other things did.
Okay.
But to me, Forest Hills Drive is a classic album from a J. Cole, and that's not the critically acclaimed.
Wait, hold on. From J. Cole, or you mean just classic in general that the culture will see as a classic?
I don't think the culture sees it as a classic. I don't think that. Like I said it before, I say it again. J. Cole, San Antonio Spurs analogy, wins all the awards, everything, but people don't like rush to see them play. So I think that Cole has all the abilities.
Right.
He wins all the awards. He gets nominated for awards, but in terms of like marketability and all that other extra shit, people just not into him
I
that
think
much.
I believe it was like the listening session for Born Sinner. He sort of explained like things that we already knew. He had trouble making the big single stick, like getting those things without feeling like he had to compromise who he was as an artist. So I feel like Power Trip was a moment for him because that turned out to be a huge single without him having to do some shit that didn't feel uncomfortable for him.
Legacy-wise, I think we should start talking. You know what I mean? Again, I remember I was telling you the conversation I had with Drake, and I was telling him like yo, you've done anything in the game. Like now we're talking about your legacy. I think that's the case for Kendrick. I think that's the case for Cole. While they still work on their legacy, I think at this point they've given us enough work, or their body of work is extensive enough that we can kind of look at it and say, where are they positioned right now? Where do we think they'll finish? And I don't know. Like I look
Cole
at
a legend.
Okay, but I look at these and I'm like, in terms of albums, we do know he has classic mixtapes, right? But do we knock him a little bit because he doesn't have that quintessential like that's that album that kind of defines his catalog, where like he kind of came with it. And of course, people look towards Forest Hills Drive, but I don't know if the culture accepts that as like that's one of those albums. You get me?
Yeah.
So is that a knock against him? And just looking at the list here, I'm thinking about it real quick because I don't know. I think every time when we discuss legends, and he is a legend, we usually have one of those albums, right? And Forest Hills Drive is probably as close as we get, but I'm not too sure if that will be it. Or maybe we just need more time. Again, I mean, it did come out 4 years ago.
I think he needs more time, but I think like he's cemented. I think that he's very cemented. He means a lot to people. Like remember we was talking about in terms of what people grow up on and what it means to them. Like how I always say about what Jay-Z means to me, or even Jada. Like the Lox is like my favorite group all the time because of the time they came out and what I was going through in life. What they were saying spoke to me a lot. So when I look at Cole, he's impactful to a whole generation. Like when you think about like Drake I feel like Drake is impactful to, a whole generation as well. But Cole shit, it lives in a place where none of this other stuff that deems him to be the guy has to exist, and he's still that guy. Like like I was saying yesterday about like the Nas fan versus the real hardcore Nas fan versus the real hardcore Jay-Z fan. The real Nas fan don't give a fuck about if he makes a big record or if he makes like this, if he wears jewelry or any of that shit. They don't care about none of that flashy shit. They care about his lyrical ability and his lyricism, all of that. The Jay-Z fan, they still want to hear him talk fly shit from time to time. That's why when he talks some shit about family and everything, it's not as accepted as it was before because they just want that from him and they feel like a lot of people can't change their narratives.
Right.
Now with Cole, I agree with y'all now too about that. He needs to start rapping on somebody else's shit as far as production.
Been thinking that. And not to cut you short, but just still trying to continue that thought about legacy. If his career was done right now, and of course it's not, like where do you see like what ballpark range? I'm not saying like
Top 10 or anything.
yeah,
like that.
top 10, top like where do you kind of see him falling?
I feel like
Of all time?
Of all time? All time is tough.
That's a big question right now.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm extending beyond top 10.
Yeah.
Really. Like,
Yeah.
like, do you see
I feel
him
like he's in a
you see him as like, yo, top 30, top 20?
I don't even put it, I don't want to put a number on it,
Mm-hmm.
because once you put a number on it, then it's like, I can always think of 5, but it's hard, I could get 4 easily, but it's hard for me to get the 5th, and then 10 is even harder. I think in terms of Hall of Fame. If we're talking about Hall of Fame, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Okay.
When it comes to hip hop. Like no questions asked.
Wait, but first ballot Hall of Fame for his time or?
No, just hip hop.
Okay.
He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's because it's so many other people that haven't achieved what he has. Because let's not act like Cole ain't have like commercial success with big records. He has had.
He kills it. That's the thing. And like the HBO deal, he's made a lot of these like big leaps that like he's out of here. But
He don't. I hate. He's not cool.
I think he doesn't care to be cool.
He doesn't care to be
He
cool.
doesn't care. It's not that he's not cool.
People don't. I'm sorry. People don't. The hip hop opinion will always be like, even as wide open as music is, it's always
I
that.
think his counterparts are cool though.
If-
Like, or are they seen as cool? Are people
Who are you
looking
talking
at
about his
Drake?
counterpart? Like Drake, Kendrick, those guys?
Kendrick.
I'm just
you think
talking.
they're cool.
No, now Drake. Now look with Drake. All right.
If Cole was more present, would it change the narrative? If he was like out here, he didn't vanish and recede into the dark.
Absolutely.
Like I do,
think
and I
what it is
understand
that
why,
it's Cole comes across like the old nigga, like an old nigga hanging with young kids. Like basically, he doesn't do what everyone else is doing. He doesn't fuck with social media.
But he
He's
did
so
at one point in
distant.
time, but he
did,
stopped.
but I assume shit happens. You know what I mean? Like you want your privacy, etc. But it seems like that is part of the narrative.
But see,
like he's just not out here as much.
And
as
I
everyone else.
I always equate that. You know, basketball is my thing, and I equate that to like. People say like Robert Horry, right? Of course, he wasn't the #1 guy on the team, but he won 7 championships. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I'm not comparing him just to Cole, because Cole is like that guy.
Robert Horry.
No, Robert.
And man, he is a legend, but
He's
damn.
a first ballot Hall of Famer, because if
He's
not,
a legend for popping threes. Like, you know, he
he is, but a lot of them threes don't go down. A lot of championships don't get won. And I feel like with Cole, because it does change that. Like if Cole didn't look like a Marley, like no, seriously, if the nigga didn't look like a Marley and he was out more, people would view him a different way. And his music, down to his music, it would sound a little different to people.
I would probably equate Cole to like the guy that goes down without a championship, but he had hella deep runs in the playoffs. Always made the Western
Without a
Conference.
champ.
Yeah, I don't know if you did. I don't know if that's.
Well, I'm gonna equate the championship to like that classic that everyone just instantly thinks of. And I'm
But
still
everyone,
saying-
but that's why I said it's like it lives in 2 different places, because it's like it's not a critically acclaimed classic. That's why we was having the debate about classics and shit. And it's a thing. People got their personal classics or what it means to them, and then we got the ones that to the game, to us, and the whole entire game, it means something. Now to me, Forest Hills Drive is that for him. Like that's his classic.
And maybe I'm tripping. This is where Nadeska Stanism is supposed to jump in and be like, fuck that. Like, you know
That's-
what I mean?
I'm trying to chill. I
Forest
gotta
Hills
be
Drive
sort of
is what it is.
objective
Because
here.
I do know, like, it's the same thing for kind of Drake. I think only Kendrick has, like, he has 2. Where
He has
the
2.
culture, like, even if you don't really fuck with him,
2.
be like, yeah, them shit's a classic, right? But for, like, Drake, I know for me, Take Care is a classic. For a lot of people, they're like, no, it's not. You get me? Okay. And maybe it's the same thing for Cole. Where if you like Cole, yeah, Forest Hills Drive classic, but if not, it's whatever. So I mean, maybe it's the same thing.
Look, album's debatable. I'm gonna say Friday Night Lights and the warm up. I'm
Friday
giving.
Night
I'm
Lights
saying.
is
I'm saying
fucking-
Cole has
oh
2
my
classic
God, yo.
mixtapes. The end. Fucking period. It's
Right.
over. And I think, by the way, him coming back, the Lil Pump interview, even if people didn't enjoy it, that was what it was. But like him going on tour with Young Thug, it feels like he's making the effort to be out here.